This is The Real Hustle, the programme which gives you the lowdown on the most common scams being run by con artists in Britain today. Our hustlers Alex, Jess and Paul have been travelling the UK to demonstrate the cons for our concealed cameras. And if you watch closely, you'll learn how never to get fooled again. This is The Real Hustle. In this episode, you'll learn how a dice game can be rigged, the secret behind a psychic scam, and how a hustler can fleece you at a bar or pool hall. Remember, all the people in this show have been hustled for real, and after they were given their money back, they agreed the footage could be shown so that you can avoid being ripped off by the same scams. A pair of ordinary six-sided dice have 36 different ways they can land. Where there's odds, there's always a gamble to be had. And where there's a gamble, there'll always be a hustler. This is the Rigged Dice Rip-Off.
Any game where dice are used, whether that's backgammon, Monopoly, anything, I can guarantee you that there is a hustler somewhere who spent hundreds of hours figuring out how to rig that game.
It's not just about loaded dice. Everyone thinks if you put a weight in a cube, then you can use that to win, but you have to be very subtle even with that. You can cut the dice in a specific way so that they roll to certain sides more times than others. You can even take dice that are completely legitimate and roll them in a cup and control them to a desired outcome. This takes a great deal of skill, but if you really want to get the money, then it's worth the practice.
Alex and Paul are on a river tour with some sightseers, but they're not on board for a pleasure cruise. They've come here to prove how a simple dice game can be rigged to a hustler's advantage. This group of punters have been persuaded to play for money. However, they don't know that Alex and Paul are expert cheaters. The game is called Put and Take.
Back in it.
2 dice are rolled. One is marked P for put and T for take. If it lands on P, the player puts money in. If it lands on T, the player takes money out. It's that simple.
Take 4.
The second dice tells the player how much money they are either putting in or taking out. The options are 1, 2, 3, 4 or all. So the best possible roll is a take all, which means the player can take all the stash for themselves. Let's see how our hustlers do.
Whoever gets this is basically what?
Definitely.
Oh.
That's the biggest one.
The odds of anyone rolling this are 12 to 1.
Yeah, I'm buying the drinks tonight.
Play goes round and the rest of the players stick in a load more coins into the pot. Back to Paul. What does he throw next? A take all again.
I almost feel like I should apologise, but only almost.
The odds against rolling 2 take alls in a row are very high.
Come on, no, take all, yeah? Put one.
It's come round to Paul again. It's yet another take all. His third take all in a row has beaten odds of 1,728 to 1. The Marks are starting to lose all their coins thanks to Paul's amazing run of luck.
I think it's the way you're rolling it.
Do you think? There is like a little thing on here, isn't there?
Surely he can't keep throwing a take all without being accused of cheating.
I did say I was going to get a put all because I had to take all last time.
Apparently he can, but the Marks seem to think he's just on a winning streak. With odds of well over 20,000 to 1 against that happening, they obviously haven't been doing their probability homework.
Need a take. I'm done.
Why not John out?
It is me out.
Take 4.
So, how are the hustlers controlling their throws? If you look carefully at the dice that the hustlers have used, you can notice some of the edges have been delicately shaved like this. Amazingly, this tiny difference in texture causes the dice to rub inside the cup and line up in a winning combination. If they are shaken normally, they will land randomly. But if they are shaken the right way, like this, they'll always give the cheat a winning roll. Which is why the hustlers have been able to empty the pockets of the marks. What did the marks think when we revealed the scam?
It gives you another perspective on gambling, I think, because especially we couldn't tell really that they were cheating. So, you know, in the light of that, maybe it just highlights the fact that you shouldn't do gambling even more so, because you can't tell if someone's hustling you or not.
A proposition bet, everybody knows a proposition bet. It's basically, I can bet you I can do something. Will you bet against me that I can or cannot do this?
A proposition bet is a great way to hustle a few free drinks and a meal. Hi, I'm Jessica.
And a free coffee is what's on Jessie's mind. She's approached a likely-looking guy and has offered to show him a trick which will blow his mind.
I'm going to show you a game. It's with these 3 matchboxes. All you have to do is keep your eye on the matches.
Right, okay.
Yeah? So, go 1, 2, 3. Okay, forgot myself. Okay, point to the one where the matches are.
It's that one.
That one.
Yeah,
You sure?
Yeah.
Yeah? And you'd be right.
Yeah.
But you know what? You didn't bet any money on it. So have you got any money on you?
I may have a bit.
Look, have you got a pound? I've got a pound.
There's no trick to it.
Sorry?
There's no trick to it.
There's no trick to it. It's a pound.
Okay.
Okay? There we go. All you have to do is follow the matches. See? They're still there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, point to the one where the matches are. That one?
Yeah.
You sure?
Positive.
You positive? You see, it's a lot more difficult when there's money on the table.
Right.
But I tell you what, I'll give you a chance to win your money back. I'm going to leave this one out, and we'll go again with 2 boxes.
Okay.
Okay, so have you got any more money on you? I'll tell you what, get a couple of quid out. I've got my £2.
Right.
Put it down on the table. Right. There we go. Okay, so remember, keep your eye on the matches.
All right.
Okay, point to the one where you think the matches are.
That one.
Are you sure?
Positive.
You're positive?
Positive.
Okay, well, I'm not going to touch it. You have a look. Nothing in there?
No.
So, you think the matches are in this one?
Must be.
How much would you bet that the matches are in this one? How much more money have you got? I've got £2 more.
It's robbery.
You got another couple of quid?
But I'm pretty sure they're in there.
We'll put your money on the table.
£2 more.
£2 more. Yeah. Okay. Do you think the matches are in this one?
Yeah, there must be.
The matches aren't in this one. The matches, Daryl, are right here. So thank you for the round.
1-0 to Jessica. Like any good magician, the trick was up her sleeve. And the matches you could see in the first box didn't rattle, because she glued them all together. Cunning. Believers claim a true psychic can accurately foresee the future, and as proof of their skills, psychics may know a stranger's most intimate details. Well, Paul Wilson also has that ability, and he's not psychic at all, he's just a cynical hustler. This is the Psychic Scam.
This is an example of a hustler using a belief system to take advantage. The idea is to string the mark along, promising them anything that they want, and the bigger the promises, the more they're willing to pay.
There's no specific category for, the people who fall victim to this sort of scam. It's people who are looking for answers, people who are vulnerable. It can be absolutely anybody.
In order to put the psychic scam into play, Paul has rented an office and decked it out in mystical paraphernalia. He wants to attract in unwary punters looking for answers in their lives, and then bamboozle them into giving up their hard-earned cash.
Come in.
Hello.
Nice to meet you.
Paul, how are you?
I'm good, thanks.
Have a seat. Thank you very much.
Oh, it's cold.
The scam is about to begin. He's got his first customer, or Mark.
And how are you today?
Okay.
Yeah? Yeah, interesting.
It's time for the cold reading.
How are you?
I'm good, thanks.
Okay. A little
I'm a
nervous?
bit nervous.
Yeah. This is really a get to know you kind of session. I use some pretty unusual methods.
Okay.
Nothing to worry about. We won't burn anything. I basically like to try and see what kind of connection we've got. I'd like you to mix those up any way that you like. Any way is good.
Paul uses fortune cards as a prop. He pretends to be getting signs off randomly picked cards.
We'll make 3 piles any way that you like. And make 3 piles for me. Any way that you like.
In fact, he's about to play out a pre-rehearsed script to suck the punters in and gain their trust.
Got an issue on your mind right now, don't you? I do get a feeling that you have something on your mind right now.
Notice how he keeps saying the same thing to each person, and how the comments he's made is always correct for every victim, even though it's the same question.
You don't take everything completely on face value. You like to weigh it up and balance it a little bit. One of the most difficult things about being a fake psychic is convincing someone that you do have psychic powers. And the way that I did this is using a technique known as cold reading. Now, cold reading starts as a very basic series of Barnum statements. That's 10 statements which could apply to anybody, and because people think that they apply to them specifically, they believe that you have some kind of insight that they don't have. And basically, by using their reactions and having a good knowledge of people themselves, you can unfold somebody's personality, and as you're doing that, find out what they want and hope for, and give them that in the future.
Now, having gained a degree of trust, Paul starts to wheedle some specific information out of each mark. This is going to come into play later on in the scam.
Velma.
Velma.
Yeah.
One used to push me down the stairs.
Pushed you down the stairs?
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, do you have a specific date in your life that is important? So tell me about that, a little bit about that. What was his name?
John.
It was John. Do me a favour, on the wall here is a chart. You see the all the different little pictures, the collage? Yeah.
The first stage is complete. It's time for Paul to perform his big convincer. We call it the miracle. First, he distracts the marks by asking them to look at the chart on the wall. You'll find out why in a moment.
Just give me a second's thought and tell me which ones relate to you the most. I want you to look over the pictures, give everyone a second's consideration for me. That's
Okay.
it.
Now he shows each mark a notepad full of doodles. These doodles are meant to have been made by Paul whilst in a trance and are supposed to represent his contact with the spirit world.
You know, I have personal readings with people quite regularly, but what I try and do is anything that comes to my mind, I write it down. I doodle, I do anything that it takes.
Just watch. Paul is now about to reveal his miracle.
I try very, very hard to take in any thought that comes to me and note it down. And so, for example, August the 8th, I mean, that could be you,
Yeah.
couldn't it?
Yeah.
This really could be you, couldn't it? Jill, is that your mum's name?
Yeah. Yeah. I was being pushed down the stairs.
Being pushed down the stairs. That's very, very good. This might actually be you.
Paul's hit the nail on the head with details he couldn't possibly have known about. That book was sitting on the shelf before the mark even entered the room. How could that personal information have passed into Paul's mystic notebook? Was it a miracle? Is Paul in contact with the other side?
I have never had a hit like that.
Actually, yes. Paul is in contact with Alex, who's on the other side of a false wall. He's been playing a crucial role in the scam. Whilst the marks were revealing information to Paul 15 minutes earlier, Alex was secretly listening and making the miraculous doodles appear using a very mundane biro. Once he'd heard enough to make the necessary doodles, Alex waits for Paul to distract the mark's attention. Then he subtly slips the pad through the secret hatch into the room, ready for the mark to retrieve it and believe it was there all along.
You have to remember, they're not expecting a magic trick. They're not expecting something like this. They're certainly not expecting, you know, someone to be behind the wall. So this literally comes out of left field to these people. And when they see their life, their personal facts on a piece of paper that I apparently wrote or drew before they arrived, they really don't know how to react. But a connection like that, I don't want to ignore.
No.
At all.
I don't think it's worth me ignoring it either, to be honest.
I'm really excited by a connection like that. Yeah. I'm gonna be thinking about that all day. You can imagine what it's like for me.
You can't even put so many names in one reading anyway. That's just
unbelievable, isn't it?
All of which leaves the Marks more than happy to hand over their cash to Paul to make sure they get the benefit of his amazing powers.
Listen, shall we do this?
Yes.
This is what I'm offering people. If you're interested and you feel that we've made a connection here today, and I think we have, to be honest, since you first came in, I think that we've had a pretty interesting connection. Would you want to take that further?
He truly has got some amazing powers. The power to fleece the poor punters being the chief amongst them.
My mind is racing right now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. My mind is racing. I'm very keen to get you on board, I'll be honest, because anybody I can connect to like that helps my cause. Because you know, there's so many people that just think this stuff is garbage.
I was sitting there and I was thinking, okay, yep, that's true. And I was still in half a mind until he brought out the notepad.
That was intriguing that he had those down. I hadn't even spoke to him then, so that was fantastic.
It made me feel scared, and I was trying to think of where the trick was. And I think that's why, because I was scared of it. I was thinking, where's the trick in it? You know?
Our hustlers have come to a pool hall for a few games, but there's no time out from scamming. They're here to cheat some quick cash out of the local punters with a pool hustle. Paul's found someone who's up for a challenge.
You know, while my colleague sets these up, do you gamble much?
Not a lot.
This is worth paying just to see. We got 3 balls at the end of the table. The idea is to take the cue ball and hit the yellow ball. But there's rules. First of all, you can't come off the table to hit it. And secondly, you cannot hit either of the 2 balls that it's balancing on. And you've got to shoot from up here.
So how am I going to hit the yellow if I can't hit the 2 balls?
All right. Well, look, normally we'd take your money on this, but I'll show you how it's done first. Okay? All right? It's pretty simple. I'm going to aim straight for the yellow, but I can't come off the table. I can't hit those 2 balls, okay?
That's cheating though. That's cheating though.
It is cheating, it is cheating. But listen, be honest, if I told you to go and tell one of these people you could do this and make a bet, do you think you could win money off of them with it?
Of course.
Yeah, all right. Well, do you think you can definitely do it, right?
Yeah.
All right. Give me the cue ball there, please, Alex. All right, we'll do it again. One more time. This time, you do it.
I do it.
How much money do you think you can make with a shot like this?
Anything.
A lot of money, right?
Yeah, as long as I bang the table.
All right, okay. So you can definitely do it?
I believe I can, yeah.
All right, how much you bet?
£5.
All right, give me the £5.
So Paul has revealed how his trick works. The secret is to bump the table as the white ball rolls up, so the 3 balls dislodge, and the yellow is free to be struck. But what's Paul's game here? He's just given away the secret. Surely he's on a loser. All the Mark has to do is bump the table to repeat the trick.
All right, give it a shot. Remember, exactly like I showed you. Hit it. I think the problem is...
You switched the balls! You switched the balls! You switched the balls! That's cheating, man! That's cheating! That's cheating!
Just by saying that there's something that you're missing, you're going to get conned, but by finding out what that is, you'll be able to use this yourself on your friends. It's accepted. People enjoy it. It's almost like a joke.
So that's it from our hustlers for this series. we've been let into the secrets behind Britain's biggest scams. But what are the main points to remember from the last 8 shows? They say don't judge a book by its cover, but it's only natural to do so. And our hustlers have shown how simply putting on the right uniform allows them to get away with whatever they want.
The whole network is out. So if you can pay me, I'll give you a ticket.
When Alex and Paul pretended to be plainclothes policemen...
Okay, stop there, police.
This shopkeeper was totally convinced because they looked and talked the part.
Leave that money on the counter. Please let my colleague back in, please. I'm afraid that's part of the evidence as well now. You will get it back, obviously.
So much so, she was happy to hand over a £600 necklace as evidence of a crime.
So you're saying to me, what if all 3 of them were in on that? They'd have had me. They'd have had me then.
Paul memorably also dressed as a special delivery courier. And because his act was up to scratch, he was able to easily fleece unsuspecting victims for extra postal charges on their own doorsteps.
Hi, this is Rob Marks. I'm downstairs for TRH deliveries. I have a package for you.
Sorry about that. I haven't got 20 quid on there.
Is the check okay?
And when the 3 hustlers got their motorcycle courier clothes on, they were easily able to infiltrate their way into random offices and scam the businesses by phoning their own premium rate number from the company's own phones.
Sorry, 1 second. Dispatch. Very enough. Do you mind if I use your phone very quickly? It's just the dispatch. Just
like a local number.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yes, that's perfect. Okay. All right, thank you. Bye-bye. They can't get the details. They're going to basically get someone else to come out once they know who it's from. Yeah, after all that.
These days, new technology and gadgets are invented faster than most people can keep up with. But hustlers have kept apace with the new inventions and used them for new and clever ways of committing crime. Alex showed how a Bluetooth computer can be used to hack into and take control of other people's mobiles, even forcing them into making premium rate calls to his own special number. And Paul and Jess proved that a wireless internet access point isn't always what it seems.
I would never ever send sensitive information, such as credit card transactions, over wireless.
Bogus Wi-Fi connections can be used by hustlers to fleece the unwary road warrior of their credit card details or worse. Working as a team, the hustlers even infiltrated an office and planted an electronic keylogger on a Mark's keyboard, proving how internet bank passwords could be vulnerable to a determined attack.
Without revealing your password, could you please give me the first and the third letters of your password?
No, I'd rather not do that.
And we're also advising that customers change their passwords on their online accounts.
Okay, fine, I'll do that later.
That looks like a password to me.
Another golden rule to remember: every seductive offer can sometimes hide a nasty scam.
We're scouring right now looking for new talent.
Paul pretended to be a talent agent to persuade wannabe singing stars they were the next big thing.
Great, guys. That's great.
In fact, all he was after was persuading them to sign up to a very expensive contract, which they did.
Well, I've got to grab it with both hands.
I think you've got to grab it with both hands and jump.
And when Alex was a fake estate agent renting out a bargain flat, these girls couldn't believe their luck.
Quite a good size. We've got fridge, freezer. There we go.
In fact, the flat wasn't even his to rent, and they would have genuinely lost out.
How much cash have you got with you?
£100, would that be okay?
That's fine.
If someone's flattering you with a fake agency or tempting you with a cheap flat, remember, it's always worth checking their bona fides carefully before handing over any hard-earned cash. Also beware of hustlers armed with props and spinning tall stories.
This is how to make money from the money they throw away at the English Mint.
There might be a beautiful woman in a bar telling you that she's mislaid a very precious ring. She'll try to persuade you to hand over cash to her accomplices, but don't be fooled. the ring is worth a £5 and you've been played for a sucker. They might be demanding cash compensation for an accident on the street, despite some very dodgy pavement tactics.
Oh, please don't be broke. You've just broken my vase.
But what was in the box all along? Broken glass. They might hire a car for the day.
All right, if I leave a deposit today, when could I pick it up?
And sell it for cash over and over again. They might seduce you with dreams of winning the lottery.
No, I won £2,800 on the lottery. No.
If she says her friend from overseas wants to sell the ticket for cash, walk away quickly. The ticket is just a fake.
28. Really?
A big mess for me, but...
Well, I can nip out and get some cash as a cash machine. Do you want to come out and...
I'll have a look at you. I trust you. Yeah?
Or the simplest con of them all. They might plead with you to just hand over your money.
I'm trying to get my company to get me a ticket to get to Guildford.
After all, they look far too respectable to be con artists, don't they? The Hustlers showed us how a con artist can use a seemingly impossible bar bet to their advantage.
Before I can down a shot, you could down a pint.
Now, you see, I said, I can't touch your glasses, you can't touch my glasses. So, thank you very much. Andy's paying for the drinks. Thank you very much. It was lovely to meet you.
Lovely, yeah.
Thank you.
Layers. Thanks.
Another thing the Hustlers have taught us is keep a wary eye on your possessions. Pickpockets and thieves have a catalogue of methods to relieve you of your bag or purse. The most common technique is to distract you and then rob you. If you have even the slightest suspicion, don't be afraid to just walk away. Protect your identity, your cards and your cash. Con artists can clone your bank cards at a cash machine or by routing through your bins.
3 credit cards and a loan for £12,000.
This one here is basically the whole fascia that would go over a cash point machine. As you can see, it's very authentic looking. It's got all the stickers that would normally be on a normal cash point.
Lastly, it's worth remembering, be sceptical. Keep your eyes open but don't get paranoid. Thankfully, real hustlers are still quite rare. And if you know what the scams are, you can easily avoid them happening to you. Just remember the rule of the real hustle. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
Chris Crudelli lays his healing hands on us next on BBC Three in Kick-Ass Miracles.